her response to that was like, I felt ganged up on by you.
Oh, so she's an asshole and a martyr. Nice.
Yes.
Good combo.
Dear Shandy. Welcome back to Dear Shandy, listeners. Hello, Andy.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing quite well. How about you?
Good. It's Caller Day.
Excellent.
We always love a Caller Day.
We do.
We wish every day was Caller Day, really. So today we are joined by Claire. Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Would you mind giving us your age? The age of, I don't think it's a partner in question, but the ages of all the people involved in your story and your predicament, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 23, almost 24. My partner is also almost 24. We're very similar in age. And then the person that I'm going to be discussing today a little bit more is his younger sister who just turned 22. So about a 2-year age gap between the two of us.
Oh, okay. Also, your location, you don't have to be specific, but just
Sure.
region.
I'm in the DC area.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's get to it.
Awesome. So I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. So we met pretty young, and he is genuinely my best friend. We lived together at this point. So we moved in about 9 months ago. We've adopted a kitten together who's actually sleeping on the couch behind me now.
Hold on a second. Can the kitten be woken up?
Yeah, just give me 1 sec. I'll go grab him, okay?
Just asking for a friend.
That's dessert. You don't start with that.
No, you don't know what's good. I may forget about it. I won't forget about it.
Oh.
He's also about 6 months old, so he's still very much a kitten.
Wow, he's a big boy.
He is a big boy, yes. He was the biggest in his litter, but he's a very, very, very sweet guy. Yes. So
Okay, Andy's dying right now.
Okay, that's enough. I can't take it.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Thank you for
of
humoring.
course, anytime. So we have a kitten together. Again, very, very much best friends. We are very open and honest and upfront with each other about everything. He makes me laugh every single day. And I think that like one of the things that I admire the most about him is just that he's an incredibly like patient, kind person. So I come from like a European background, very stereotypically. And so my family is very passionate and we speak our emotions whenever we feel them and are very direct. And instead, he is very patient and kind and measured. And that does kind of bleed into the conversation and what I'm going to be bringing up today. So he has a younger sister. And again, she's 22, so 2 years younger than him. And when my boyfriend and I first got together, she was very, very excited because I was his first serious relationship. And she like followed me on all social media and she would be texting me and she would say like, she's so excited to have an older sister and just was like very, very excited to get to know me and all that jazz. And I think that though things always stayed very friendly and very respectful, I think that it became clear to both of us that we just would never really be best friends. So we have very different personality types. So the way that we choose to relax, have fun, what we prioritize is just very different. She's an incredibly intelligent, driven individual. So it's like the way that we view the world may be similar, but just like the way that we choose to get from point A to point B is different.
I smell a bullshit sandwich.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's coming.
Not that this is bullshit.
She's
but
getting the toast nice and golden brown.
Yeah. I'm waiting to find out what kind of sandwich it is.
Yeah.
What's inside?
Yeah,
What's
I'm
inside
hungry.
the bread?
Let's hear what's for lunch.
Yeah. Over the summer, I went on vacation with his family for a week, and I was staying in the same house as the rest of his family. And that was the longest period of time that I had been like just with his family. And I was also going to be meeting like a lot of other family members for the first time. So a lot of like cousins, grandparents, things like that. So it was going to be a slightly stressful and just a big week for me to meet a lot of members of the family of the boy who like I've discussed marriage with, so a big deal.
Wow.
And his sister is very much like the darling of the family. So she's the only girl of all the cousins, with the youngest of all the cousins. And she in my boyfriend's family, it's just them two as siblings. She generally gets what she wants. And just is very much very outspoken, loud, center of spotlight, center of attention kind of individual. And while we were there, things started out fine. And then slowly there just started to be instances of like slight bullying, to the point that like my boyfriend like pulled me aside and he was like, hey, like she's being kind of mean to you. And I was like, yeah, like, thank you for noticing. So just to give some examples of things. So I have anxiety, and my anxiety manifests as nausea. And so I don't drink very often, especially when I'm in like a stressful situation, but also in general, it's just not what I choose to do a lot of. And throughout the week, their family instead likes to drink a lot, especially during family reunions. And during the week, like she made a few judgmental comments about the fact that like I don't drink as much as they do. And she is very aware of like the reason why. So like at one point we were playing Flip Cup and I was like, oh, like I'm actually pretty good at Flip Cup. Like I really enjoy playing Flip Cup. And she was like, oh, you like the drinking part as well? And just like kind of comments about that.
Very unnecessary.
Yeah. We were also playing this game with like all the cousins, all the kids. It's like one of those Ellen phone games where there's like somebody asks a question and it's on everybody's phone. And so the question
it's
and
like on the forehead. It's the one where you flip it on your forehead.
So like a question is sent out to everybody's phone. This iteration of the game is sent out to everybody's phone. Like for example, like what would blah, blah, blah get tattooed on their back? And so everybody like makes up an answer and then you vote on the best one. And it's anonymous.
God, those games are always trouble to me.
Yes.
Someone's feelings always get hurt with games like that, in my opinion.
Someone ends up crying.
All I know is the last time I played that game, my feelings got hurt.
Oh dear.
Okay, let's hear it. What did she do?
So the question that came for me was, what is Claire's biggest pet peeve? And her response was, it would take less time to list all the things that aren't pet peeves. If I was, in the mornings, if I was the only one in the room when she came in, she wouldn't say good morning. There was one instance, which I think for me was really telling, where I was like just sitting on the couch next to his mom with like a little bit of space in between us. And we weren't really talking or anything, just kind of chilling next to each other. And she came by and just like sat in between us and like didn't say a word and just like created a physical barrier. And it felt very symbolic, but like a third grade's version of what good symbolism is. And this would also, the confusing aspect of this is that this would also be contrasted with like her calling me pet names, saying that I'm part of the family, like saying that she loves me, posting pictures of me and her on her Instagram story, all that jazz. So my boyfriend and I have talked about it. And though we're like very understanding of the fact that there are two sides to every story, we're not aware of anything that I could have specifically done to like have caused the animosity. So what we kind of think it is some sort of like territorial thing where her and her brother, my boyfriend, are very close. And so I've become more of a priority in his life. And I actually forgot one, I'm sorry. So he mentioned during this trip that he was going to be staying with my family in my hometown for Thanksgiving. And he's never visited my hometown, and my parents moved away a few years ago. So it means a lot for me to be able to go back and to show it to him. And because we live together, her response was, you see her every single day. I don't understand why you can't be with family for a holiday. And as a side note, I'm going to be going to their home over like Christmas break and the holiday season then. So spoke with my boyfriend, don't really know what like the root cause of all of this is, other than like potentially some like jealousy of being a new girl in like being introduced to the family and some territorialness. And one of the things that we were discussing between me and him, and is one of the questions that I want to ask you guys, again, coming from a family that's very upfront about our feelings, and was a little bit like, like, is this something that you would consider talking to her about? Because I know that like there were certain days where I would just like sit in my room at the house that we were staying at and be like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't feel good. Like, I feel a little bit, but like this feels very high school to me, And he his response to that was like, I will support you and if do what you would like, but I am more of a passive person in the way that I deal with my family. And I just think that my sister sometimes has mean tendencies. And the reason that we have such a good relationship is that I let these things kind of like wash over me, and I don't think about them too much. So I never want to create like a me versus her situation. So like my questions are a few of them. First off, like, how do I talk to my partner about like feeling belittled by a sister whom he loves, while like being honest with him, but also being respectful of the fact that they're siblings who love each other. And this also ties into like, do you think that he should talk to his sister about this? And in general, like, should I be doing anything to try to improve the relationship or the situation?
Okay.
First of all, this girl, I'm going to call her, sounds like she's 22 going on 13.
Yes.
My question, this is like just a preliminary question. I just want to know, does she treat everybody like this? Just to get that out of the way. I want to make sure that you're just not one of many that are treated like this.
From what I've seen, it is a comment I have also sometimes made in frustration, that I would argue that emotional responses tend to be a little bit less mature. Yes.
Okay. So she's not necessarily singling you out as far as how she treats people. She may just be treating you slightly differently, but there is that sort of territorial issue with her brother.
Yeah, and also they're close in age. She's another female. I think there's a lot of factors here. But yeah, I am curious to know if this is sort of just par for the course for her and everyone just sort of takes it because she's the baby. And it sounds like she's gotten away with a lot and continues to sort of push that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, is there like a cousin who's also female, also young? I'm just wondering if you've seen this with anyone else in the family or when you've seen her spend time with people.
So I will say that like her humor is very much at the detriment of others. So she very much, even to my boyfriend, like makes jokes that are hurtful. I think that the biggest thing is that a lot of times people just don't call her out on it. And again, as I mentioned, I'm more confrontational, but I really don't see it as my place to call her out on it because, like I'm not part of the family. Like I don't want to create any sort of divisions, but like from what I've seen, and she lives in a different place, like we went to school in different places. So I haven't seen her too much, but all the cousins are male and older. And mostly what I've seen for many members of her family, like, and especially her brother, humor is often at the detriment of others.
Which is not uncommon.
No, it's very common.
There are a lot of personalities like that. Yeah,
neggers. Did you ever in any way show a reaction to how she was behaving towards you that would have let her know that you were not happy about it?
Or that your feelings were hurt?
I wouldn't be surprised. I have a really bad poker face. And I've been told that it's very easy to read when I'm upset or unhappy with a situation. So like, let me say this, like, I don't think it's a secret to anyone that like, we're not super tight. Like I would be very surprised if she thought that everything was good and chummy between us.
Okay.
I think this is, I mean, you can go ahead, but my initial reaction to this is a girl who is extremely territorial. She knows she's the only girl in this family. She knows that's a powerful position. She sees you as a threat. You're a similar age, as you mentioned. Your boyfriend clearly really likes you, and there's some serious potential long-term here. I think she's just literally pissing on her territory. Right. I can't see this as anything else. And honestly, like you say, like it's not my place to confront her. But if your boyfriend is passive to the point, and we're going to get into this, but if your boyfriend is passive to the point where he's not going to speak up, which he should, and I know you're going to say that, but if he's not going to, you're going to have to eventually stand up to her because it's going to become ingrained to the point where there's a point of no return, where you've just been basically turned into her, like, I can't use that word, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with everything you're saying. I think your question is deceptively simple. It sounds simple. It's like, oh, My potential future sister-in-law and I are not really similar people. We don't get along that great, but we also don't see each other that often. How to a head should you really bring this? There are also other factors at play here, which is that she could just have a sort of like acerbic personality. Is that the word I'm looking for here?
Yeah, that's exactly the word I was thinking.
Like, I've known girlfriends like that ones, and they tend to fall into one of two categories. One is where that's just, they kind of don't give a fuck. And that's why I'm curious to know if you had indicated being hurt, because the people who fall into the latter category, meaning the ones that are not fully aware of how callous they are, that kind of person would be like, oh, wait. Or even if you were even to bring it up, then they'd be like, oh, I didn't realize it. And what's risky, and I think that's what complicates this, is that if she is in the former category, this could turn out to be more drama than is worth, in my opinion. And that's my one fear is if you don't see her that often, she makes these little digs. It's sort of like if you feel like she were the kind of person to retaliate and be like, who the hell are you to stand up to me? I'm the girl boss in this family. Yeah. I get away with everything. And I already get the sense from you, and I relate to you in this, is that you are confrontational, but you're also, I get that I sense sensitivity from you because I'm also a sensitive person. It's these little digs take their toll, they add up. And one you might brush off, but when it happens 5 times over a weekend, you're like, at what point are you going to be a doormat or stand up for yourself? Right. So I do think this is a tricky one, deceptively so. I tend to always go in the more cautious direction with this sort of thing. If you're not seeing her more than, I would say, twice a year for family-related events, I would wait another family gathering, weekend, week, holiday session, and sort of suss out whether or not it's worth bringing to a head, because she could make your life a little more complicated, and I don't think you want it to get to that point. But at the same time, I also want to tell you to stand up for yourself. It's a tricky one.
No, it's a good point. And I was thinking that it really comes down to how often you're going to have to deal with
it.
And if it's very often, you need to probably bring this to a head despite the risks. If it's very infrequently, like maybe one or two major holidays a year, I think probably leave it up to your boyfriend to try to diffuse. But I say in either situation, I don't mean to put this much pressure on your boyfriend, but he seems like a non-confrontational guy, and I get that. But I think it's his job to start planting seeds of like, hey, chill. Like this girl may be around for a long time. Like, you need to chill.
I always think of that conversation we had with the marriage and family therapist. If this is the sort of lifetime partnership that you think it might be, there is that united front factor.
Team.
Where even if it's out of his comfort zone to say something, it's because he's on your team and he knows how much it bothers you. But again, even that, I'm not sure if it's at that point to me.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to make it about her. He can just say, like, he can talk to his sister as if he's bothered by it.
Yeah, but then you run the risk of the sister being like, well, why are you saying this to me now? Like, I think it's because of Claire, and then it's sort of like, should Claire have just spoken with her directly? It's interesting. The kind of person that has that sort of personality, when you do confront them, it's almost like, I had column A and B, and now it's like A1 and A2. She could retaliate, or you could, also piss on the territory and put her in her place. And then that kind of person actually retreats a bit.
Right.
I don't know if I have enough information based on her personality to tell you what I think you should do, unfortunately. And I hate not having...
Does she seem like a bulldog? Like, does she seem like the kind of girl who's never going to back down in confrontation?
Yeah. Like, if a little tension does happen or a little debate, does she just keep sticking to it until it's good and dead? Or does she ever rise above it? That's what I want to know.
Not that I've seen. I think that another thing that I've noticed is she gets very defensive in a like, how could you do this to me kind of situation. So like if something is brought up, she's like that, like that she's asked for, like she's asked an opinion on, and like two people may be like, listen, like I know that you may want us to respond this way, but actually we feel differently. Her response to that was like, I felt ganged up on by you.
Oh, so she's an asshole and a martyr. Nice.
Yes.
Good combo.
Okay, based on that, I would definitely tread carefully in being the one to say something. Here's the thing. I think this girl is going to learn a lot as she gets older. Mm-hmm. I think she's going to start having relationships. I assume she's still in college.
Yes, she's about to enter medical school, actually. So if that helps with the personality aspect, MD, PhD, actually. So like, she's a smart cookie and she's a driven individual. But if that helps with the whole, like, she's a determined cookie as well.
Oh, wow. That's a curveball. I didn't see medical school coming in this one.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of Instagram.
She's
Me too. I saw Instagram too.
I saw a lot of sideways sticking your butt out beach photos, but I guess that's not what's happening here.
No, she's like an incredibly intelligent, like top of her class, receives awards kind of individual. To the point that it's a little bit frustrating. You're like, stop winning things. Yeah.
Yeah. She's very type A.
It also sounds like she's not afraid to lord what she perceives as her superior intelligence over others. Okay.
Have I ever surprised you with a present?
On occasion.
And the surprise itself was nice, even if it was just a silly card or something that you didn't really love. The surprise was good.
Yeah, the surprise in and of itself. I think you're actually pretty good at surprising. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm really good at surprising, not great at the actual surprise. But moving on.
I mean, it's always nice to be surprised. It's nice when the gift is nice or the words are nice, but when it's framed as a surprise, it means a little extra.
Well, great, because I have a surprise for someone, but it's not you.
You have a surprise for someone other than me?
Yes, I have a surprise, and it's not for you.
It's for Lisa, and it's from Dan, and the surprise is Happy Birthday!
Dan always says it's hard to get gifts for you because you're clearly his everything.
And how do you get gifts for the girl who has everything?
Lisa, you surprise Dan every day with your brilliance, your beauty, and your kindness.
So here's a surprise for you. Happy birthday. I'm going to give you an answer you probably don't want to hear, just based on what we have so far. I feel like this is one of those sit back and wait situations. If you're not seeing her more than twice a year, it's not for more than like a holiday, Thanksgiving maybe, or Christmas, or just some getaway. And you can also pick your battles. You know, if you know she's going to be there and you were on the fence about going anyway, you can sit that one out. Mm-hmm. And then that also sends a message to your boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Life is too short for two things: to spend precious time with people who make you feel less than, but also, I can tell you're like sitting waiting. But it's also too short to spend it embroiled in a sort of long-term, tense, ongoing personality conflict with someone that it's just such a drain.
Yeah, absolutely.
She might not be worth the war.
That's the feeling I'm getting. And I know that's a pain in the ass answer because you are not afraid to confront people and you do want to stand up for yourself. And I'm sure, like, if this episode goes out there, I'm sure people will be like, oh, she should stand up for herself. I think that there are different paths you could take here. But for me, based on how often you have to see her, I don't know if it's worth it yet. Yeah. And I also think life is going to teach her a lot of lessons over the course of the next very formative 5 years for her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's going to grow up. I hope. And if she doesn't grow up and your boyfriend doesn't kind of coach her into behaving properly, which is fine if he doesn't.
He's not going to do it.
If that doesn't,
unless I get the feeling, Claire, unless you say something, he's not going to be the one to discipline his little sister.
No.
But life is going to discipline her. She's going to have a boyfriend where she has to learn what compromise is, or have a crush on someone who doesn't like her back, or have something happen with a friend, or a friend will say something to her. People who have closer relationships with her.
Yeah.
So I have a little extra nugget to add in, just because you brought that, fun word up, relationship. So She actually has been with someone, I think they're about like a year to 6 months behind us. And something that my boyfriend and I have like discussed is also this idea of she's a very competitive individual, if that wasn't obvious, a given. And kind of the fact that her older brother got in a relationship, she got in one shortly after. And like him and I have never really had any massive issues. Of course, like we argue about silly things like what to watch on TV, but like nothing that at its core is like problematic, Her relationship instead has, in my opinion, at least, having been in situations where there's been some like emotional manipulation, like massive red flags left and right, like really bad communication, different ideas of where people stand. It scares me to hear some of the stories that she tells about her relationship. So I don't know if that adds anything, but I just thought I'd add that extra little tidbit.
Well, it solidifies the kind of person we think she is.
Exactly. Actually, that only makes me more confident in my answer and also in my personal take. And if I feel like you agree with me, but you're allowed to disagree, that you should not necessarily spend bandwidth on this, because if her own boyfriend, if there's this kind of up and down with her own boyfriend, you're not going to be as high on the priority list. I don't know if she's going to value your relationship to the point where she would be like, this time I'm not going to get defensive. Mm-hmm. What did I do? Oh, I feel bad about this. I just don't see that happening. And then that becomes a bigger issue that you have to navigate.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that you're right. I think that at some point you may have an opportunity when you're if and when you're fully ingrained in this family and they've accepted you, not necessarily her, but they've accepted you, you're there, you're not going anywhere, and she really never stops and it just keeps going, and she gets really out of line. Just say, I'm just going to assume her name is Karen. Karen, shut the fuck up. And you'll be able to say that. And that will make a big difference. And you hold that in your back pocket for as long as you need to. But at some point, you can always drop that. And I promise you that'll stop her dead in her tracks.
I don't know about the actual verbatim, shut the fuck up. But I do.
Oh, no, verbatim. And even if her name's not Karen, you say Karen.
Just say Karen, yeah.
I do think the examples you've given are all very irritating, and being also a sensitive person, they would bother me. But to touch on that, none of them individually are Karen shut the fuck up worthy. Mm-hmm. Hashtag Karen shut the fuck up. Not yet. But, they might be one day, hopefully not, as she matures and as maybe you spend less time together to the point where spending time together has some novelty. And I'm wondering if maybe she just got too comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm all about picking battles. I pick battles in every arena in my life. And this to me is, I don't think you have the right weapons for this battle. You can hold your own, but then you're going to kind of be in the battle for a long time, and it's sort of is it worth it?
Yeah, I would say a very aggressive ignoring when she acts up with you. Yeah, really aggressive. Like let it roll off your shoulders as best you can, at least optically.
Which is also a learning experience for you too.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you've encountered.
Try to work with your anxiety. I mean, you're going to have to try to keep that at bay. But honestly, everyone except me, actually. Your family. I got very lucky. This is a very big exception. Your family is all great.
Well, my mom was hard on you in the beginning.
Yeah, but at the first few weeks, then it was fine. But
my mom openly despised Andy for the first few weeks.
But very briefly. That's pushing it. It was not full despising. Somewhere between disliking and despising. But everybody has someone in their partner's family that they're not cool with. Almost everybody. It's almost unheard of that you like everybody in your partner's family. There's always somebody. And this is your somebody for now. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll stay the same. Maybe it'll get worse. There's always some asshole in everybody's family.
I gotta agree with Andy, unfortunately. I don't know a single friend. And, I'm well into my 30s now. And so I have a few years on you. And whether friends are married or divorced or in long-term relationships, there's usually someone someone in the partner's family that you're like, are they going to be at Thanksgiving? I think I'm good.
No, absolutely. There's always somebody, and you just have to sort of roll with it, and you have to have your own red line. You really do. You have to draw the line, and if she crosses that line, you know what to say. And figuratively or literally, you can make that choice, but you really have to draw a line. I don't think she's crossed it yet, but she may.
And I'm glad you're saying that, because I don't want to make it sound like this is just something you're going to have to live with and just be a doormat and she can treat you like shit and you'll take it. But I do think there should be a red line, something that is not a result of like a sum of little irksome things, but rather something that really feels like it's individually crossing the line. Mm-hmm. And then I would say that's when the boyfriend needs to join the united front.
Right. Remember, you're a team. It's very important you brought that up. You have to be a team in this stuff. It doesn't matter if he's related to her. You guys, that's it. You're the bond.
And also, I don't want to make it sound like you need your boyfriend to fight your battles.
No.
But it's more so that I think based on their personalities and their relationship, just based on what you've told us, that might have more impact than you making even the most salient points and and arguing your point so well and standing up for yourself, just based on what you're describing, like how she handles conflict and confrontation. I imagine it would just carry more weight coming from your boyfriend, unfortunately.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. So I guess that like kind of goes into the question of like, how do I talk to my boyfriend about, his sister whom he loves, that I like, I'm having trouble. And especially in situations where I'm surrounded by his family and I can't really, I'm like locked in a room just with him and don't really have a release from like exiting the situation. If I need to like vent or get out some frustration, like how do I talk to him about being frustrated at his sister? Is there like a line that I shouldn't cross? All that jazz.
Not in my opinion.
For me, I think the most effective way is not to tell him to talk to his sister or tell him what to do, but to tell him how you're feeling.
Oh yeah, but she's talking about how does she even just vent to him about her? And when you first, sorry, were you?
No, that's what I'm saying. Just tell him that you're like, I'm really feeling very anxious around your sister. It's really bothering me. You don't have to tell him what to do. If he doesn't do anything at that point, then you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, honestly, when you asked that question early on, I put a pin in it because it, in a way, was arguably the most concerning question that you've had here tonight, because I don't feel like this should be something that you need to be careful with how you navigate. Like he's your partner. Mm-hmm. Like I know that she's his sister, but so what?
Yeah.
Like you're his partner. There's a difference.
Yeah.
If you got in a car, you would be, what's the front seat called?
Shotgun?
Yes. You would be shotgun in the car, is all I'm saying. So I feel like, yeah, you can be like, oh, I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to spend every moment we have together in our room venting about her. And you can pick your battles on that front. But if you find that you find it difficult to bring this up because he's not really meeting you there, or is like, oh, you said that he noticed.
Oh, yeah. And let me just say that like the reason why I asked that question. So obviously I've like spoken to my mom, who's a very wise owl. I appreciate her and go to her for many things. And something that she's always told me ever since I was really small is that, in relationships, when it comes to family, you need to respect that person has a family, and that there are certain lines when it comes to speaking about their family that you as a partner just shouldn't cross, because at the end of the day, like it's their sibling, it's their parent, etc. So you want to like keep the respect there when you're talking about your frustrations about them.
Okay, absolutely. When it's just about them as an individual. But when it's affecting you to this extent where you wanted to leave, you felt your anxiety acting up, you were contemplating actually talking to her about it. This is not just, like she chews too loudly. It's not like, this isn't a bitchy remark about like some idiosyncrasy or habit she has. This isn't mean. There's a difference between being mean about a family member and being like that your family member makes me feel this way.
You're just telling him how you feel.
Yes.
It's the same way you'd say how you feel if you had a really bad day at work. It just happens to be his sister. I don't see anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, I think you have to do that. You have to be very honest with him about how you feel.
I do want to backpedal slightly because I don't want to be misconstrued with your wise owl mom, and I think her advice is really great. And it is very wise. And I think a lot of people could heed that more. But as long as the language isn't around what an asshole the person is, it is really, as Andy said, coming back to how they make you feel. I don't think there should be a limit. And this is just how I am in a partnership. I want to feel like I'm in that safe space. I would be concerned if you found it difficult to bring it up. I'm not saying it is. I don't think it is. But I don't think you need to feel too worried about that.
Okay. That's good because I have had no filter. And so this is more, should I implement a filter or am I going okay? So thank you for backing me up.
Yeah, definitely backing you up on that front. Oh, Claire, I feel, we've talked before about how some calls are just not as satisfying as others. And ironically, the other call that I found unsatisfying had a sort of similar theme where I forget the caller's name, but her boyfriend's friend, female friend, was not very nice to her. And it's sort of like, how do you navigate that? This is sticky in a different way. And I don't know if there's like a golden answer to this question.
I would say proceed with caution with her and proceed with a lot of openness with your boyfriend about your feelings.
Yeah. And I, as Andy said, the red line, I would maybe marinate with yourself over what that is. Because then you won't be spinning your wheels sort of like, did that go too far? Did that go too far? If you sort of have, it could just be a feeling. Like if she makes me feel this way, then I know that we'll implement step 2, which is not saying something.
And it's also, just to give your boyfriend the benefit of the doubt, I understand it feels like a bit of a betrayal when you have to go tell a family member that like you need to act differently around this person that I've chosen to be in our family. It feels a bit like a betrayal, I think. That's how he probably feels. He doesn't want to take sides against his family. He doesn't want to take sides against you. He's stuck in the middle. He's going to take the passive route.
Which, to be fair, a lot of people would do.
Yeah. So it's not
I don't think you have to have a passive personality to do that.
Right. I'm not trying to say your boyfriend's really in the wrong here. But if this starts to get out of hand, he needs to step up and say something. It doesn't need to be an absolute battle. He just needs to mention it to his sister that, I just want to let you know that she's upset. You've upset her and it bothers me. Simple.
Yeah.
And hopefully it should bother him.
Yeah. And again, like we very much openly discussed all of this. And I think that he just falls into that category of like men in America who were raised to like not have emotions and not speak back on their emotions. And so it's something that like together, especially as someone who is very emotive, we're like working together and like working on standing up for yourself and speaking up and like being able to voice emotions out loud. But I think that especially when it comes to like family members and standing up for himself and his feelings in regards to that, like it just is a little bit trickier,
Absolutely.
Maybe this is and in the end, maybe this is a good exercise for him to grow, to be able to say to his family, like, I don't like what you're doing.
Right. And I swear we'll wrap soon. I feel like we're sort of going in circles, but I do want to say this, and I don't mean for this to come from this like, I'm so older and wiser or anything, but you are all objectively very young. And I do think that your 20s are really all about this. A lot of your 20s are about navigating, dealing with people that you don't necessarily like that much on a human level.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very curious to see what the next decade looks like for her. And obviously this is one of those challenges for you.
Right. But I will just close with this. Don't let this hurt your relationship with your boyfriend, because it sounds like you guys are doing really well. Don't let this become a disease, a cancer in your relationship.
Which would happen
even if he continues to be passive. This is not a red strike against him. He can do this if he needs to. If he cannot go against his family, you're eventually going to have to probably accept that.
Right.
Claire, do you have any other questions? I know that wasn't very satisfying.
No, and you know what? Like this is the same advice that my mom also gave me, and other.
Oh, the wise owl.
The wise owl, yeah. And it's kind of like, because again, like when I wrote in, it was a few months ago, so I've been able to like talk to her and some other friends, and that's kind of the consensus. But I really wanted to get. You guys are very direct and outspoken. So I wanted to get your opinion, and also just from a very outside perspective. So it's what I'm doing. I'll just keep, chugging along, but it's good to also get some reinforcement that that's the correct thing to do. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, of
course.
Great.
I hope we helped. These are always tough ones. It's much easier when you're having problems with your boyfriend. Way easier.
Yeah. You just say, nope, that's it.
Not every time.
But most of the time.
Don't put me in a corner. But yes, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these outer relationships get very complicated. Friends and family of boyfriends and girlfriends. It's
There's a reason why when we do Q&As, Andy can only take one, at most two non-romantic questions. Because these are actually, I agree,
they're draining.
They're draining, and they're complicated.
Very
I'm
complicated.
sorry, guys.
Oh no.
So sorry.
You should be sorry.
I know.
Come back with a relationship. Get into a problem with your boyfriend that I can deal with.
I'll come back.
And remember, I think if there is a single takeaway here, it's what you said earlier. Every family has one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually. 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Good luck.
Bye.
Give us an update.
I do want an update.
If anything develops, or
Hopefully,
if you get to tell her off.
A very uneventful update. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Boy.
Well, she was lovely.
She was lovely.
She really seems older than her age.
She's an old soul.
Yeah.
And she's dealing with a
young
13-year-old, 22-year-old.
Yeah. Again, not every call is going to be as satisfying as you'd like.
Yeah.
It really brings into focus. We have the podcast to thank for thinking about things like this. I don't know if I ever really realized how much life is a series of navigating this.
Difficult personalities. That you need to deal with. This isn't just a friend that she can sort of fade on and cut out of her life or her friend circle. Right.
If she wants to be with her boyfriend, this is something she has to deal with. And as much as this answer may not have been the most satisfying or climactic, if I would much rather be like, you should confront her and give her a piece of your mind. And
black and white.
Yeah, I would love to give that advice. Just having lived, I think that this could very easily be a total drain on her bandwidth and happiness and all the things in ways that we could not even possibly imagine.
Right. I think that the risk level in dealing with outside entities, the lowest risk is ex-girlfriends. You can do whatever you want with them. Like they're
how about ex-boyfriends?
Right, sorry.
Ex-partners.
I'm speaking for myself.
Okay.
But yes, ex-partners can be dealt with however you'd like. And with a firmness.
Well, because chances are if you broke up, things came to a head in a way where you sort of crossed that bridge. Like you're on a different island by the time you're broken up, and the rules have gone out the window. Right. You dated, and so you were the closest you could be.
Right.
And then you broke up, which means that you did cross a bridge. You are in different territory.
Right.
You're in a foreign land where you don't necessarily need to bottle things up in the same way.
Correct. The next level is friend.
Yes.
Of partner.
Yeah.
Friend of partner is a little...
I love these categories.
This is the way I see it. Is friend of partner is a little more complicated. Depends how long you've been friends, how deep the bond is, how much history you have. But friends are in the middle. Like you can deal with friends a little harshly if they're really out of line, but you still have to be a little careful with friends.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You're still on your best behavior somewhat.
Yes.
You're not going to just, when you're in a bad mood, just let it fly.
Absolutely not.
You still need to be civil.
Got to be an adult about it. Now, the most high-risk category is the one we dealt with just now, family. Very difficult to navigate. Because you can't just say, I'm done with your family.
Yeah, family that's not your own. Because I think family that is your own is a next level way more comfortable.
That's different.
Yeah.
Family that is not your own, your partner's family, that is very complex.
Yes.
And you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, you, my partner, are done with your sister.
Yeah.
Or your mother, she's out. You can't speak to your mother anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be really careful. You have to understand that this may be a lifetime project.
Yeah.
Start slow.
Yep.
Real slow.
And you, once you say something that maybe crosses a line, you can't take that back.
You can't.
And you could be looking at a life of spending holidays together, or maybe even if they end up in the same city, just having to be in each other's orbit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, if you are dealing with a partner's family member who you see maybe once or twice a year, really keep it in first gear, just for preservation.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to put too much pressure on your partner, because everyone knows it's not easy to just go and scold your family member about how they treat your partner. That's not an easy task.
Yeah.
Especially if her boyfriend's passive to begin with. But
that's a good point, actually. If you really put yourself in the boyfriend's shoes, that shit ain't easy.
no, it's not.
It's really not.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
If you are spending a lot of time with this family, like maybe they live in your basement or something, and you got to see them every day, that's a totally different story.
Well, because at that point, you graduate to a different level where you're not just partner's family or, boyfriend's girlfriend.
You're no longer a guest.
Yeah, you're starting to merge roommate, family, like living under this housemate and family.
You gain leverage.
Yes, you gain leverage to the point where now I can speak my mind a bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you want to keep going through your steps, or do we kind of get the idea?
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I think going up from there's family and obviously partner and stuff like that, where you are so comfortable that, yes, you can be like, oh, this bothered me. This is how I feel about it. Like, you don't need to bottle it up. Let's say she does end up marrying this boyfriend. Then they are, in a way, family. This isn't going anywhere. Like we said early on, you cannot just cut this person out because the relationship isn't serving you.
No.
You can't apply a meme to this, a self-worth meme. It's more complex than a meme can cover, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a project. This is a project. Go at it slow. Look, she doesn't even know if she's going to be like, I'd like her and her boyfriend to succeed, but she doesn't know. Maybe they break up. Maybe she has 6 boyfriends after this guy.
And the word succeed, I think, is not correct, because they could break up and that the relationship was, 4 years. They're living together. It was still a success.
Wow. The internet has really, really made you walk on eggshells. Holy cow. Like, it could be a success. Breakups are successes. Good relationships are successes. Not having a boyfriend or girlfriend successes. Not being a human being, everything's a success.
I offend someone every time I open my mouth. I'm a walking disclaimer at this point.
I don't want to see this happen to you. I will not let this happen to you.
All right, I take back my disclaimer. It's a complete and utter failure if they ever break up.
Yes. There may be success. There may be great lessons learned by both parties that will make them better people. Yeah. But the relationship was not a success.
Okay. I'm glad you put me in my place for that. I deserved that.
Yeah, no.
I just don't want to be like, oh, if their relationship ends, 4 years, she's not even 24. No matter what, I guarantee you, whether they end up together or not, this relationship was a success to some degree. I'm just saying.
Look, the internet is like a very big industrial restaurant.
Okay.
Somebody is going to be offended by how much flavor there is in water. That's it. You're going to give someone a glass of tap water and they're going to be like, there's too much flavor in this. Do you have anything more bland? That's what happens when you serve 1 million people.
Why? I'm curious to know why the tap water is the thing served at the restaurant that you're choosing to focus on, because you could actually apply that to really anything the restaurant serves.
Boiled broccoli, steamed broccoli, too much flavor.
Yeah, or
it's too salty.
Too salty, too steamed. Not steamed enough.
Not steamed up.
Too crunchy, too soft.
Now we're getting off what I was trying to get to. My point is someone's always going to have a problem with something.
Yes.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
The relationship will be a failure if they break up. Their lessons learned may be very valuable.
Yeah.
And will likely be very valuable. But the relationship's a failure. Okay, I'm glad we could agree on that. Anyway, my point is there may be future relationships. This may not be her final guy. Mm-hmm. So just tread carefully for now. Don't get too invested. Mm-hmm. You don't see this person that often. Yeah. You got to go easy.
That is truly what it all comes down to. Like, if we had to make a TikTok video of this episode and there was only one part of this answer that we could give to justify what advice we're giving. How much time is she spending with this person?
Right.
Not that much.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
Not enough to, I think, get embroiled in what could be a years-long contentious.
Lifetime. It could be a lifetime. They could be in their 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to see her. I don't want to go visit her. You know how I feel about her.
And by the way, we can both speak on this. We both have extended family, just every family has its dramas.
Yeah.
And there is no family. I'm sorry. There is no family where everyone just gets along hunky-dory and there's no conflict and everyone just loves each other all the time.
No, it doesn't exist. And I'll tell you something else. And I was trying my best to ride a fine line with a boyfriend because, yes, the united front is very important. No question. In this situation, it's a little more nuanced. And I actually think in his mind, he may be thinking he's preserving the relationship by not creating a bigger conflagration.
That's a good point you're making.
Yeah. I know I've done that before.
Yeah.
I know that I've been like, there's someone, whether it's a friend or a family, someone's had some issue or an ex-girlfriend that I knew wasn't an issue. I've had, you know what? It's better to keep this at bay than to address it, because addressing it's going to create a monster.
Yeah.
So sure, that's a passive way of doing it, but it's also practical.
Yes.
This may be his practical way of solving this. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to let this simmer for a long time. Maybe it'll come to a head one day, but by that time, we'll be married, we'll have kids, we'll be all set.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And at that point, it's just a completely different question.
Then Karen, shut the fuck up.
And on that note, if you enjoyed what you heard today, you can keep Dear Shandy in business by liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, following us on Instagram, telling your friends, leaving us Apple Podcast ratings and reviews, and generally doing all the things you would do to keep a podcast you enjoy alive and kicking. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dear Shandy. Bye.